Hey everybody, this is DiscGolf01 with Black Chip Poker. We are going to be discussing the delayed semi-bluff. This basically just means raising your drawing hands on the turn as opposed to the flop, which is much more common. We're going to talk about when and why to take this line. In today's games, players are firing the turn much more often than they used to. The turn C-bet has basically become the new C-bet. And so against any opponent who is barreling often, they're going to be less likely to be strong when they are betting the turn. So obviously it's going to be a good time for you to put in a raise with your draws. And not only because they're less likely to be strong, but also because it will make you more difficult to play against, discourage them from barreling you in the future, and generally make your life easier. Anytime that the turn comes with what is thought to be a good barreling card, generally another high card or a higher card than previously was on the flop, it's going to be a good time for you to pull a delayed semi-bluff. This is because obviously they're more likely to be barreling, and even though they might have picked up a top pair type hand with their what was previously overcards, you're representing, at least, unless you were just floating with overcards, you're generally representing at least two pair, and you can put them in a really tough spot, even if they just picked up top pair, top kicker type hand. It's important that you haven't been getting crazy with similar spots previously that they've seen. Your image is somewhat tight. And as far as stack sizes go, this works out pretty well often with 100 big blind stacks that you get around the pot size bet once you come over the top of their turn C-bet. And this is important because you're getting in the last bet, and you can't be re-semi-bluffed, and you really maximize your fold equity. Of course, you can't do it on a, when you're deep stacked, you can pull delayed semi-bluffs, obviously, but in that spot, you're not committing your whole stack. But if you're somewhat just a little over 100 big blinds, it can get sort of awkward if you're around like 150 or 130 or so, because once you make that bet, oftentimes you're committing yourself and you're committing a lot of chips in a spot where you don't necessarily have a lot of equity if they put in another raise. It's important that you represent a number of combinations. We are going to look at an example here. Alright, try to find an example that really took all the variables we discussed into play here. Alright, under the gun raises to 14, we call with 6-7 of clubs, and we flop a flush draw, and we decide to just call on the flop. Wouldn't be unreasonable to raise. Now this under the gun raiser is a regular, somewhat aggressive, not crazy, but he does have a pretty high C-bet percentage and a moderately high turn C-bet percentage, and this turn card is an ideal barreling card for him, but it's also an ideal spot for us to raise if he does barrel, as we were discussing. And he bets pretty large, which puts a good sized pot out there for us to go ahead and just try to take down, and it gives us about a pot size bet to come over the top with, like we were discussing. And as far as the number of combinations that we are representing, we're basically representing all of the nut combinations, since we have this short stack behind, and they generally love to squeeze, and also Poker 101 I believe, has a fairly high squeeze percentage, so it would be reasonable for me to flat aces, kings, queens, ace, king. Obviously, king, queen, eights, and threes are all in my range as well. So after we raise here, we definitely put him in a tough spot unless he has a very strong hand. So we decide to put in the bet, and we don't put him entirely all in, but it's clear that he is all in. I think he has a 30 or 40 left after, and he folds. We're brilliant. Now we can take a look at figuring out how often he has to fold in that situation for it to be profitable for us. I think I looked at giving us like 18% equity, which meant that he was, worst case scenario was just basically looking at if he has a set, and our equity against a set there. And maybe I put in like ace king of clubs. Yeah, king queen, aces. And it turned out, this is the equation here. You plug in all these variables. It turned out he has to fold about 57% of the time, which I believe is very reasonable, since on this turn I think he's going to barrel all of his missed hands, all of his suited connectors, ace jack, ace 10, small medium pocket pairs. Most of his range I believe he's going to be barreling, and since he has a pretty high c-bet percentage, a very high c-bet percentage, he's just going to have a lot of air, and I think he's going to fold well over the 57% that we need in order for it to be profitable. I think it's profitable. So you can work out this equation if you want. It can be fun to work through a couple times, but it's a lot easier and quicker if you are the lazier type like myself. You can just look up fold equity calculators online, punch in the variables, click a button, and it will tell you the amount. Obviously you won't be doing this at the table, but in reviewing it can be nice and for future reference. So I hope you will be adding the delayed semi-bluff to your repertoire, but not at me. And good luck at the tables. I will see you on Black Chip Poker. Thank you.